If you've been eating healthy, getting in your protein, and working out consistently for months, maybe even years, only to feel like you still don't even look like you work out, I used to be in that exact same position. For the first 7 years of my fitness journey, I was in the gym lifting heavy weights 6 days a week, eating all my protein, and doing all the things I thought I needed to do to see the body of my dreams, only to still feel like I looked sort of soft, flabby, and skinny fat for all that effort. Fast forward to now, and I finally have the lean, toned, sexy hourglass body of my dreams. And get this, I've achieved it eating so much more food and working out less than I used to. So how was I able to make this transformation from trying so hard and getting very mediocre results to actually having a more fun, more enjoyable plan and getting my dream results? It's because I finally learned the science of what it actually takes to build a body that's lean with obvious muscle tone and how to maintain it year-round for good. I went from constantly guessing and hoping for results, just thinking if I tried harder, it would work, to instead learning how to objectively analyze the data of my body to make the right educated decisions to my protocols so I would finally lean out, add that sexy muscle tone, and speed up my metabolism to maintain the results for good. So in today's video, I'm gonna teach you exactly how to do the same, so let's get into it. There are 2 fatal mistakes that the vast majority of women are making that is preventing them from finally getting that sexy, toned, lean, defined body that they're trying so hard to get. Fatal mistake number 1 is believing that that body, the sexy, feminine, toned body that you dream of having, will happen if you just lose body fat, and as such, you're always chasing a calorie deficit, always trying to diet 24/7, 365 days a year. Yes, the body of your dreams is a lean body, but the problem is it's not only a body with less fat, it's also a body with a lot more muscle. The firmness, the shape, the curves, the definition that you want to see comes from you adding more muscle tissue onto your body. So here's the problem. If you focus on losing weight, if you focus on getting lean, but you never did what it took in the first place to add any muscle, then you can take off the fat, but you're still going to look flabby and shapeless underneath because the muscle that makes everything smooth, firm, and tight isn't there in the first place. So it's so important to understand that yes, you need to lose fat and get lean, but you really also need to gain muscle to get the aesthetic that you want. And beyond just making you look good, you're going to see in this video that muscle is also what helps you to lose more fat and keep it off for good. Because when you put on muscle, you are increasing your maintenance level calories, you're speeding up your metabolism, all of which is ultimately going to make it easier for you to lose more fat and especially to keep it off for good while getting to eat a lot of food so you can actually have a sustainable life. The second fatal mistake that is preventing you from getting the sexy, toned dream body that you want is thinking that just one set of calories, one protein target, one set of macros is all you need to completely transform your body. So many women are doing this. They use some random online calculator or they just hear a number online like 1,200 calories a day and they're like, okay, that's how much I'm gonna eat and I'm just gonna eat this every day and then boom, I'm gonna have my dream results so long as I also add in a workout plan. Well, obviously, if you're watching this video, you have probably done this at some point. You might even be doing it right now and you're seeing that it doesn't really work. Maybe it gets you like a little bit of results at first, but very quickly you end up plateauing, and even if it got you a little bit of results, it's still really far off from the super amazing physique that you want to have. Now, the reason this happens is because it's so important to understand there are phases to building your physique. So I already mentioned that yes, we need to lose fat, but we also really need to add on muscle. You need to build muscle tissue that is not there right now. And since we need to do both to get that sexy, lean, toned, shapely, feminine goddess body look, we have to understand that each of those two, fat loss and muscle gain, really do require their own phases. You can do both fat loss and muscle gain at the same time to a degree, and I'm going to explain that in this video. But ultimately speaking, to get a huge jaw-dropping night and day transformation, you are going to need to spend time going through different phases. You cannot just stay at one intake forever and ever and think that that's going to be enough to totally change everything. So what do I mean by different phases? Well, you've probably heard the terms bulking and cutting before, which is essentially what I mean by this, but I'm going to break it down a little bit further than that. So traditionally in the fitness space, most big competitors or bodybuilders, they cycle between bulking versus cutting. And the reason why is because the bulking phase is where they are trying to gain as much muscle as they possibly can. And they do this by eating in a calorie surplus and actively trying to gain weight. And then the opposite is the cut. This is where you go into a calorie deficit so that you're actually going to lose weight. You're going to be taking fat off your body. And the idea is now you're going to reveal all the sexy muscle underneath that you work so hard to build in your bulk. Now, bulking and cutting absolutely does work, and in fact, I have done it myself. The very first time I ever saw a huge transformation to my physique was when I finally hired my first online high quality fitness mentor in 2023. And we spent that entire year going through a 6-month bulk followed by a 6-month cut. And that is when I finally started to see the body of my dreams. I finally started to have way more shapely poppin' glutes with a small snatched waist, and especially having the sculpted sexy leg definition I had always dreamed of. Now here's the thing, looking back, even though I'm really glad it got me on the right path, I definitely went too hard on the bulk, more than was actually necessary. I now realize you can do this in a much more simplified way that luckily gets you way better results without having to have the fat gain that I experienced when I bulked, because I went from gaining 15 pounds in 6 months to then also losing 17 pounds the following month. And yes, it meant that I had a whole new body underneath, but I definitely got a little bit bigger, a little bit flabbier than I needed to be in the bulk itself. So what is my variation called? Well, yes, I do the cutting phases, the calorie deficits, but we only do this a small percentage of the time. And the rest of the time, instead of doing a bulk, what I like to do is called a reverse diet. So a reverse diet and a bulk are not the same thing, because a reverse diet is where you are gradually, bit by bit, increasing the amount of food that you eat. But the idea behind this is that you're actually increasing what your maintenance level calories are. So with a reverse diet, you are still eating more or less pretty much at your maintenance. It's just that you're working up your maintenance level calories. So let me quickly illustrate this with a client. This is our client Kate, who's almost 50 years old, 49, and she's only 5'3". When she came into the program, she was already lifting weights several days per week, but she was only eating 1,600 calories a day, even though she was eating plenty of protein. Well, in just over the course of 4 months, we took her through a reverse diet and she got this transformation. As you can see, she got way more lean, way more toned, with obvious visible ab definition and slimmer thighs. But here's the thing, she achieved all of that by increasing her calories, not by decreasing it, not even by maintaining the same calorie intake. She went from 1,600 calories a day all the way up to 2,350 calories a day over the course of 4 months in order to achieve this result. So this is why you would want to do a reverse diet. Number one, because of the fact that you are eating more food gradually, your body is going to adapt, and therefore you're going to start burning more calories 24/7 on autopilot. AKA, you're increasing the speed of your metabolism, you're giving yourself a higher level of maintenance calories. Number two, because you're eating more food, your body feels better. Your body doesn't like being in a deficit, it doesn't like having to diet and restrict all the time. It's kind of very taxing for your system. Your body likes when there's an abundance of food, when it feels safe. So if you're eating more food, you're gonna have better digestion, you're gonna have way more energy overall, and also more energy for your workouts. You're gonna have better recovery from your workouts as well. You're not gonna be as sore, you're gonna be able to bounce back way quicker, and you're going to have a better hormone production, because don't forget, your hormones need food in order to be working the way that they need to, and also in order to be making more of them. And best of all, just like in the example I just shared with Kate, a reverse diet is also giving you your initial recomp. Recomp standing for recomposition, meaning that you're changing the source of weight on your body. So even though we're increasing calories in your reverse diet, you are already starting to lose some body fat, and you're definitely starting to gain muscle because you're increasing your calories. Now, there's an important caveat that goes with this, that it's not enough just to eat more food. You also need to make sure that your training is on point, because since the body you want to have, that sexy toned body, comes from you gaining more muscle, yes, you do need to make sure you're eating enough to gain muscle, but muscle isn't gained just from you eating more food alone. Muscle grows when you put a challenging resistance, a challenging stimulus on the muscles themselves that you're trying to target. And that comes from your training. That comes from you doing good quality strength workouts where you are really pushing yourself and you're getting stronger and stronger, lifting those bigger, heavier weights bit by bit over time. Now, I literally get messages from women daily who tell me that they don't think anything's wrong with their training. They think it must just be their nutrition because they already have a workout plan that they bought from some influencer and they're religious about doing it, and they still don't see any definition on their body. Now, definitely part of the reason you're not seeing the definition for sure is probably because you're not eating enough, you're not eating enough of the right ratios, but I can promise you, if you work out consistently and you don't have any definition, or you don't have very much definition, it also has a lot to do with the quality of your training. Just because you're consistent, just because you're even lifting heavy weights and progressively overloading, doesn't mean that you are actually doing what you need to do to finally have the muscle tone that you want. For example, me back in the day, I was in the gym 6 days a week. I was doing squats, deadlifts, hip thrusts. I was always lifting heavier and heavier, and I still had really unimpressive results. I mean, like, they were okay, but I have way better results now, especially in my lower body. I'm so much happier about it now, and that's because I send in form videos every single week to my one-to-one coach so that he can review it for me. He can tell me all the small little details, all the nuances of exactly what I need to be changing in my execution, in my technique, in my effort, in my intensity, so that I'm gonna see the results that I want. So this is such a huge part of what I do with my online one-to-one clients. I'll give you an example here with my client Amber. This was the first deadlift video she sent me when she joined coaching in December. And as you can see, first of all, she's only using 60 pounds, which is really not that much weight. You can see she's not really confident with the movement. She's going kind of really slowly with it versus boom, this is how she's deadlifting now. After sending me videos every single week and us working on the details of this, you can see that she's lifting so much more confidently. She's moving at a much better tempo, a much better pace, and you can see that she's kind of struggling to get the weight back up. Not too much where she can't actually lift it, but that it actually looks like it's a challenge for her. And that is how you know that she's actually putting in the work, she's hitting the right muscles that she's gonna see results from. Okay, so if we look at my results over the last about 3 years, how was it that I was able to go from kind of soft and flabby despite all my effort to finally having the really snatched, strong, defined, sexy body I wanted? Well, it's because I actually spend the vast majority of the time reverse dieting, and I only spend a small period of the time cutting. So the vast majority of the time, I am working really hard in my training and I'm eating a higher amount of calories so that I'm actually going to build some muscle and I'm going to create a high level of maintenance calories with a fast metabolism. Now, when it does finally come time to where I decide, okay, I want to get extra lean, I want to trim down the last little bits of fluff and really reveal all the definition, all the shape and lines underneath. The thing is, my cut is not very difficult because when you get your calories nice and high, now, in order to make a deficit, you don't actually have to go that low. So for example, I'm 2 weeks into a mini cut right now, meaning I'm only gonna be cutting for about 8 to 12 weeks. And right now I've only had to drop my calories to 1920 a day, which is actually still quite a lot of food. But that's because when I was reverse dieting, when I was trying to be building more muscle, I was eating 2,300 calories a day. So technically, even though my calories are not crazy low, I'm still at a deficit level. So for people who are are a little bit more on the skinny side, or just in general who aren't overweight, usually if you zoom out and you look at your year, your timeline's gonna look something like this. You wanna do your initial reverse diet to get your calories nice and high, to have your initial recomp, that initial bit of fat loss and muscle gain for probably somewhere around 3 to 4 months. It could be even longer than this if the results are really poppin'. Then you'll move into a fat loss phase, into a dedicated calorie deficit. And this phase is gonna take you maybe 2 to 3 months, maybe maximum around 4 months. And then what you're gonna do after your cut is you're gonna start to reverse diet once again, because now you need to maintain the results that you achieved in your deficit where you got leaner, you lost the fat. Now you need to maintain it at a higher calorie intake, and you wanna go back to speeding up metabolism and adding more muscle tissue onto your frame while staying lean. Now, I bet you're thinking, okay, but that's for you if you're skinny. What if you're somebody who's already overweight? Well, actually, if you're overweight, let's say you have, at least 30 pounds or so that you want to lose, it's actually still in your best interest to do this method, and I have done it with many, many clients. For example, my client Steph was definitely in the overweight category when she first came to me, but instead of immediately rushing into a deficit right off the bat, we still did a reverse diet because it's still priming your body, it's still getting you initial recomp and working up your calories so that when the time comes for you to do a deficit, you don't have to drop your calories so low, and also your inner body is working better, so your fat loss phase is going to work better. So in Steph's case, she ended up losing 25 pounds by us going from where she started the program at 1,600 calories a day, reverse dieting for about 4 months up to 2,100 calories, and then doing about a 6-month cut down to 1,500 calories. We did do 2 diet breaks in that time, so she did get some relief from the deficit where we would once again go up to maintenance calories, and then boom, she lost all the weight. She looks like a whole new person, and since then we went back up into a reverse diet once again. So in that type of case, if you're somebody who's a little bit more overweight, you're looking at closer to a 1-to-1 ratio of time spent reverse dieting versus time spent cutting. And it might be that you reverse diet for a couple of months, cut maybe a little bit longer, giving yourself maybe some breaks in there, and then reverse diet once again to maintain the weight loss at a higher calorie intake. And then once you're lean, you don't need to be spending so much time cutting. You can focus your effort into putting on the muscle. Okay guys, sorry, I moved the angle of the camera because the sun is setting. I'm recording a little bit later today, and I just saw us creating some shadows. All right, and the last thing I want to say about all of this is that you do not want to just randomly guess when and how you should be doing things. If you should be increasing, if you should be decreasing, if you should be going to reverse diet or into a cut. You want to make all your decisions based on actual data. So the 3 things you really, really need to be paying attention to is, first of all, daily weigh-ins every single day, tracking your weight in an actual graph. And then the second thing you want to do alongside this is taking weekly progress photos. So here is the thing. If you just go by the scale alone and you don't compare it to what you see in your progress photos, this is a complete waste of time, because this idea that you will only look better if you weigh less and gaining any weight automatically makes you look worse is absolutely not serving you. In fact, this is exactly what keeps women in that sort of skinny, fat, flabby body for a long period of time, because they think any amount of weight gain is a problem. When in fact, a lot of the time, if you're eating more, if you're really putting on muscle, you may be gaining a few pounds, but you actually will end up looking so much better. Now, I'm not saying that that's gonna happen to everyone, but definitely for some women, adding on 10 pounds, 15 pounds could actually make you look way better. And that's because it's just about the source of the weight on your body. All right, fam, so if all of this sounds amazing and you would love to have this kind of transformation where you finally get the sexy toned body of your dreams, but you don't wanna have to guess and wonder what you should do anymore, you just wanna be told exactly what to be eating, exactly how to be training, and having weekly custom revisions to your plan so that every single step of the way is being spelled out for you. You're having your hand held, you're encouraged, you're supported. That's exactly what we offer inside of our one-to-one coaching, where we get women insane transformations using everything that I just talked about in this video. So if you're interested in getting our one-to-one support, then click on the link in the description, fill an application. We would love to chat with you and see if you'd be a good fit to work with us one-to-one to finally build your dream body. All right, fam, thank you so much for checking out this video. Now next, YouTube thinks you're gonna love to watch this one. So go ahead, check out that video, and I will see you over in that one.